Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into something pretty common. We're replacing this Spring Reverb in this Fender Deluxe 90 combo amp. Whether it's not working, or maybe you just want to upgrade it. Before we even think about cracking this amp open, safety first. Unplug the amp and make sure it's been turned off for 10 to 15 minutes. These amps can store a lot of voltage in their capacitors. We don't want any nasty surprises. It's always a good idea to take photos before removing any components. This will ensure we have a reference to fall back on. If there's a back panel on your amplifier, now is the time to go ahead and remove that. In my case, the Fender Deluxe 90 has no backplate, so we can move on. Once the back is off, look in the back of the amp. You should see the back of the chassis, a speaker, and a reverb tank. The reverb tank is usually mounted along the side or the bottom, depending on your model. It's normally housed in a metal or plastic casing, and it's connected to the amp by two RCA cables, one for input and one for output. Next, let's disconnect the reverb tank. You'll see two RCA plugs. Just carefully pull them out. If your Fender amp has a tube-driven Spring Reverb, then it's a good idea to replace the driver tube as well, which will normally be a 12AX7 or 12AT7 preamp vacuum tube. The Fender Deluxe 90 has a glued-in backplate at the bottom. This makes it really tough to get all the screws because the speaker's in the way. I find it's easiest to simply remove the amp chassis and the speaker. That will give us all the room we need to get the reverb out of the unit and back in. We don't want to damage the new one, so a little extra work is worth it to me. Next, let's remove the mounting screws. Then we'll gently pull it out. Try not to force it. It should come out fairly easy. It's up and straight out. Now we can remove the speaker. We've got 4 screws right here. Star head screwdriver. We'll take note of the orientation so that when we put it back in, it goes back the same way it came out. So let's go ahead and do that. And we'll gently pull the speaker out and just set it off to the side. Now we're ready to remove the tank itself. It's usually secured with screws or brackets. In this case, 4 screws. Just unscrew or unclip them and carefully lift the tank out. Now let's inspect the reverb unit and compare it with the new replacement part. Check the RCA connector orientation as well as mounting hole locations to be sure it's the correct replacement reverb unit. In my case, the Fender Deluxe 90 reverb model is the AEB2C1B. I am replacing the original with this Mr. Power Accutronics reverb tank 2EB2C1B. This tank is more accessible in my area. The difference between models is the original has 3 springs and the replacement has 2, which will result in a brighter top end and a slightly shorter decay. Electrically, either model will do the job. Check out the link in the description below to get one for yourself. Alright, time for the fun part, replacing the reverb tank. Take your new tank and gently install it in the same position as the old one. Be sure it's snug, but don't force anything. Now that we have the reverb tank installed, it's time to reassemble the speaker and chassis. Let's go ahead and get all that put back together. Now carefully connect your RCA cables to the new tank. If you're not sure if they're in the correct spot, then refer to the reference photos you took earlier. You want to match the color-coded ends to the corresponding inputs, the red to the red, and the white to the white. Once they're in, give them a little tug. Make sure they're good and securely connected. And the final thing to connect back up is the cable, so we'll get that connected back up here. Okay, now everything's hooked up, so let's test it. Go ahead and plug the amp back in, fire it up, and let's check the reverb. Adjust the reverb knob and test the full range of the control. Hopefully everything is working and sounding as it should. And that's it, guys. You successfully replaced the reverb in your Fender Deluxe 90 amp. I hope this was helpful. If you got any questions, drop them in the comment section below. And thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.